Smith's finally given in. She's called off the strike.
Well, that's a relief. Did she ask for any terms?
No, it was a complete surrender.
I know you won't believe this, but I'm glad she made that decision. I did say to her that they were the only ones who would lose.
I realize how disappointed you must be. But I must warn you, any further disruption to the running of the prison will result in even sterner reprisals. You are far more likely to gain improvements to conditions by cooperation than militant action. That is all.
Michael Patrick O'Brien, also known as Mark Brendan. Placing you under arrest. Having escaped from Yatala Jail, South Australia, on the 10th of December, 1971, where you were serving a 6-year sentence for assaulting police. You have a right to remain silent, or you can make a statement. Anything to say?
No!
All right, young man. Chrissy! Chrissy!
No, please, don't say you don't. No!
Meg Morris?
Mrs. Morris, it's Chrissy. Look, Mick's been arrested and the cops are trying to get me for consorting.
What's he done? Chrissy, slow down. What's happened?
They reckon he escaped from jail. Well, it was years ago, Mrs. Morris, and they reckon I've got something to do with it. They're going to have me for harbouring and everything.
Well, where are you? Right, I'll be right there. Now, don't say anything until I arrive. They're not entitled to question you without a representative. No, you won't lose your parole unless you're charged. You wait there till I come, all right? Chrissy?
Yeah. All right, thanks. But please hurry, Mrs. Morris.
No point standing there looking at it, ladies. That won't get it clean.
Oh, I think I'm going to be sick.
Me too.
Yeah, I think it was the lunch.
Bet they poisoned us just to get even.
Now, come on. You should have thought about this before you dirtied it. You've got a lot of catching up to do.
We hear you didn't want the Braille project to get off the ground. Is that true?
If Mr. Andrews told you that...
Oh, I've been here long enough to know how your minds work, especially the union reps.
Without more staff, it would have created extra duties. We just don't have the time. Oh, now, come on. You know the rules. An inmate can't be left alone with a tutor. You would have had to have been supervised by an officer or by Mr. Andrews.
Yeah, except that you wouldn't do it. And if Mr. Andrews had, then the classes would have been stopped for everyone.
I'm not against projects for you. None of us are. Except when they conflict with the staff's interests.
Oh, now the truth comes out, doesn't it, Mrs. Powell? As soon as one of you tries to make things easy for us, you go and pull the plug on them. Threaten to go on strike and force them to resign.
No one forced Mr. Andrews into resigning.
Huh. Sure, they just made it impossible for him to work here, that's all.
It is not a question of sides. It's a question of keeping the prison running smoothly.
Oh, and running smoothly, of course, means your way. Kick us in the heads until we fall down and then bury us up to our necks in it. Isn't that the way it works?
It really is pointless trying to discuss anything with you lot. I want all of that cleaned up by this afternoon.
You know, once, just once, I'd like them to give us an even break.
Them against us.
What?
That even break can work both ways, you know.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And to lose. And that gives us one hell of a lot to fight with.
I will take further action if there is more trouble and not before. You see, I can quite understand how the women are feeling. Because unlike some of my officers, I wanted those classes to succeed.
If we'd had more senior officers available, we wouldn't have had to take a stand, Mrs. Davidson.
I can tolerate almost anything from you, Vera, except hypocrisy. However, I am aware of the staff shortage, and with Mrs. Morris gone, I have been thinking of promoting a junior officer for quite some time.
Well, could I suggest Colleen Powell? She's the most experienced.
I hardly think she would be suitable.
Is that because she's our union representative?
No, I just don't consider she's ready for promotion yet.
I didn't think you liked hypocrisy, Mrs. Davidson.
All right. Mrs. Powell has instigated a great deal of unrest amongst the officers. I am not prepared for that rift to grow any wider between the inmates and the officers.
She was only acting as our spokeswoman. That's her job, and we nominated her to do it. She's one of the best officers we've got. So if you hold back her promotion, it could be taken as discrimination.
That will be all, thank you, Miss Bennett.
You reckon she's gone into shock, Jude? I don't know what good thinking's going to do about it. They can do anything they like to us, and there's nothing we can do.
Where do you want them?
You want me to tell you?
Crikey, what have you been doing in the workshop?
Our way of telling the screws how we feel about them getting rid of Mr. Andrews.
That's real bright, you know that? We're the ones who've got to clean these, not the screws. How is this going to get at them?
Well, at least it slowed down that stuff we were working on for the prison, and it kept them running around in circles for a while.
Oh, big deal.
Oh, look, if that's the way you feel, stick it.
Hang on, Phil.
I'm sorry, Bea, I was
No,
only
it's
trying...
okay, love. You've given me an idea. A little job for you.
Oh, knock it off, Bea. You know what Mrs. Davidson's like? One more bit of trouble from us and...
Well, they can't make us sink much lower, now can they? You know, we're going about this all wrong, trying to fight them on their own ground. What we should do is hit them where it hurts most, in their precious jobs. Why do you think they don't want us to work on those projects, huh?
Easy. They hate us.
Maybe. They also want a cushy time of it, right? So what we do is we make them earn their pay. And by the time we finish with them, they will be begging for transfers out of here.
She hasn't known Mick O'Brien for 10 years, and certainly not as Mark Brendan. They met at Barnhurst, and he's visited her at Wentworth. And all that Chrissy knows is that he's the father of her child, and they were going to get married. Now, if that isn't obvious to you, Sergeant...
You really believe all that?
Yes.
Haven't been a parole officer very long, have you, Mrs. Morris?
No, but I know Chrissy Latham. She wouldn't do anything to stop her getting her daughter.
And that includes telling her parole officer she knew she was living with an escaped crim?
You can't prove that she was aware of his past, Sergeant. So it's pointless charging her when we both know to be thrown out of court. Now, are you going to let her go? Or am I going to make things difficult for both of us and call a lawyer?
Constable, bring her out. With her record, we could get her on something else, Mrs. Morris.
Her record is a thing of the past, Sergeant.
We'll see.
Right, I'll take you home.
Can I see Mick first?
You mean Brendan?
I want to see Mick.
Well, seeing I'm a soft touch, I'll let you say goodbye to him.
What are you talking about? Where are you going to take him?
A little matter of extradition. You mightn't be seeing him for quite some time.
Mick.
Sorry, love. They weren't too rough on you, were they?
Oh, no, they've got nothing on me, have they? Here, that pig reckons they're going to send you back to South Australia. Well, then, why are they putting you in front of the magistrates' court here?
Well, the cops have got to prove I really am Mark Brendan, and once they've done that, then they cart me off to stand trial.
Well, I'm coming with you.
Sorry, Chrissy, you can't go. You're on parole. You have to get special permission to travel interstate.
Well, then I'll get it. I'll get permission.
And what good would that do, besides getting yourself in a knot?
Well, I could say how well you've been doing and how you're going to go straight and everything.
You're going to need every cent you've got, love. Anyhow, you might be the best reference I ever had, but well, I don't think the judge is going to see it like that.
I'll have a word with the firm you've been working with. They should give you a character reference, and I'll add to it. Everything will help.
Thanks, Mrs. Morris. Come on, love. Don't worry. I only had 2 months to serve. They won't be hard on me. I'll probably be back in a couple of days and you'll be stuck with me forever.
But what did you mean when you said about I've got to hang on to every penny that I've got?
Just in case I get a cranky judge, you know, but I won't. Luck of the Irish. You mean a lot to me, Chrissy.
Mick, I never thought much of you at first, you know. I mean, I liked you and all of that. But I only said I was going to marry you because I thought I'd get my parole quicker, you know.
I know.
And you still said you wanted to marry me.
I reckoned you was worth waiting for.
I'm so glad you did, Mick.
Just saying that I do get a bit of time. Do you reckon you might wait for me?
got used to having you around now, haven't I? Besides, you haven't finished Elizabeth's room yet, have you? You're not getting away with that, you know.
Chrissy, I want you to be straight with me. She is mine, isn't she? I mean, it doesn't make any difference, and I'd love her just the same, but that wasn't just to get out at 2, was it?
No, Mick. She's yours. I never lied about that. I'll come into the courts with you, eh? Oh, and then you won't feel so alone. Oh, I don't want them to take you, Mick.
Won't be for long. You'll see.
Your promotion means that you will have more responsibility and you will have to set a good example to the junior officers.
I'm not afraid of responsibility, Mrs. Davidson.
No, my main concern is that your position as union representative could influence the way in which you handle the women.
No, of course not. As far as I'm concerned, they're totally separate issues.
Except when they overlap, Mrs. Powell.
But only if staff conditions are affected. And that doesn't happen too often. And of course, it's a majority vote.
Would you say that you are a stickler for regulations?
Yes, of course.
Then I suggest you use a little more discretion regarding the rules for the women. There will be times when you and you only will have to make a decision which could have far-reaching effects. The rules can be bent according to the circumstances.
Well, I've always had a good relationship with the women in the past. I don't see any trouble.
In the present climate, you may find that the more senior you are, the less respect you will have. I do not want the circumstances made worse by officers abusing their authority.
No sweat. Great. Bev. Come on, you lot, get cracking.
Just lose those things when you finish with them, will you?
I've got the perfect hiding place. Look, ram those sheets down as hard as you can. I want those motors burning out today, not in 3 weeks' time.
At least they can't chuck us all in the pound.
Well, they'll be able to touch us full stop. It's lucky this junk's lasted so long.
Yeah, that'll teach them not to give us good machinery.
Yeah, well, I can think of a lot of things they can do to us, Bea.
How much lower can they shove us? Not much further, Doreen. And the harder they push, the harder we're going to push.
Congratulations. Thanks. And Vera, thanks for putting in a good word for me.
Oh, you deserve it. I think we'll work well together. You and I feel much the same way about running a prison. I thought you'd know the regulations by now.
Bit rusty.
You can't afford to be.
I suppose you know them up by heart.
Custody is always first in order of importance. Always imply that you expect the correct attitude. Be constantly on the lookout for contraband, especially weapons of any kind. Never show the slightest uncertainty as to the course of action you take. Never fraternize with an inmate or group.
I'm impressed. What do you do for an encore? Recite the entire volume of the Corrective Services Act? Yeah, well, it's a bit difficult using discretion with bald rules like this.
I suppose that's Mrs. Davidson's advice. She's got no idea what we've got to deal with, sitting in that office of hers all day. Those rules are there for a reason, and it's our job to carry them out, to the letter. Well, there's nothing in there that isn't for our own protection. I thought you would have known that, being so involved with the union.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Well, I'd say that we're going to get along very well, Colleen.
There's no question in the court's mind that you are Mark Christopher Brendan, and therefore you'll be extradited to Adelaide immediately to stand trial. I can only trust the South Australian court will deny any plea of leniency.
Nick!
Leave him alone. No contact.
Keep your hands off her side!
About bloody time. We reported the breakdown 10 minutes ago. You know, the screws are holding up our production line.
I got rid of all them things you told me to, Bea.
Good. That'll keep them going for a while.
Yeah.
All right. What's going on in here?
Didn't Officer Barfield tell you? Bit slack, I say.
I want to hear your explanation, Smith.
Well, everything seems to have broken down, Vera.
Yeah. You know, there we were. We were all ready to do a really good day's work. Nothing. I mean, I think it's very funny.
If you've sabotaged this equipment, Birdsworth, get those dryers working now.
But I've been trying for hours and I can't. I reckon they must have been blowing up. I mean, lucky we weren't all killed.
Oh, shut up,
bloody
Birdsworth.
dryers. Oh, careful, Miss Bennett. You might get an electric shock.
Yeah, we wouldn't want anything to happen to you.
No doubt everything broke down at once.
You know, we thought that was funny too. But then we decided one of you probably did it, so we copped the blame.
They'd have needed tools to have done that.
Yeah, well, it couldn't have been one of us because where would we have got tools from?
I want a search of the laundry, please, Miss Barfield. All of you, move out one at a time. After you've been searched, wait in your cells.
Ooh, look who's giving the orders. What's the matter, Vera? Been demoted?
Mrs. Powell has been made a senior officer.
Ooh.
And when she tells you to do something, you do it. Now. And when you've been searched, we'll start on your cells.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to put you out, Vera.
That's true. We know how overworked you are.
We don't mind helping you set the cells, Miss Bennett. Yeah, and you never know. You might find something you planted on us.
Now, knock it off. I think I know what's bugging them.
Yeah?
They think we have some tools stashed away. And you know how ugly that can get when they get into the wrong hands.
You heard what that creep said. All judges are the same. They're going to have him, Mrs. Morris, just because he made a fool of the cops.
All right. Now, suppose Mick does get a heavy sentence. And I said suppose. Just what are you and Elizabeth going to do?
Well, they won't turn me down because of Mick, will they?
No, but there's the question of who's going to provide for her if Mick isn't able to.
Well, the flat's been paid up to the end of the month. But, well, I haven't got enough to keep that flat on. Not what I get on the dole, I haven't.
Yes, well, you will be entitled to the single parent's pension. That isn't much, I'm afraid. Still, I'm sure I'll be able to get you some work.
Oh, yeah, sure. Doing what? You know what I'm best at? Folding sheets. That's all they ever taught me in that stinking hole, you know. Oh, I don't know, it's funny. I get put inside for what I've done between the sheets. And what do I end up doing? Folding them. OK, so you get me a job. Who looks after Elizabeth then, eh?
Well, there are plenty of good day nurseries, creches.
Oh, that's bloody lovely, that is. All I ever wanted was to bring her up by myself. Now I've got to hand her over to someone else. Well, it's just like being back in the nick. There's always someone wanting to bring you down. Oh, they just can't stand to give you an even bloody break.
Oh, fair go, Miss Bennett. We got them things at the buy-up.
Then you've overextended your quota.
Since when is there a law against stockpiling?
What you didn't get from the buy-up, you stole from the kitchen. Contraband.
Oh, yeah? How can you tell, Vera? What do? Count the beans?
I think this can go back to the library.
But I've just got to the romantic part.
You won't be needing this.
It doesn't exactly look like a weapon to me, Vera.
It could be, Smith. And if you're going to play games with us, I think I know who'll have the final say. Now clean up this cell.
Oh, yeah? We're going to have the last laugh.
You know you can't blame them for confiscating those extra cakes of soap, Jude. That can be real dangerous, especially if you leave them lying around.
Hunt's been the only one to leave the workshop. A shifter, a screwdriver and a hammer are missing.
Where are they?
Search me, except she already has.
Lock them all in their cells. And you'll stay there until the tools are found.
Right.
You had no right to close down the workshop without first referring to me.
It was disciplinary action, Mrs. Davidson. And until those tools are found, the women must remain locked in their cells. Well, that's standard procedure. And it's for the staff's protection.
Perhaps you would care to explain how the tools went missing in the first place.
They're only counted at the end of the working day.
I thought it was standard procedure for the officers to check any inmate leaving the workshop at any time of the day, Miss Bennett.
It is impossible for the staff to be everywhere at once. Unless, of course, the security gates remain locked.
Why were the personal belongings of the women confiscated from the cells?
We took contraband and anything we thought could be used as a weapon, that's all.
They have ruined every piece of machinery in the laundry, Mrs. Davidson.
Victimization will only make matters worse.
Are you saying we should have ignored it?
No, Miss Bennett, I am not. But I will deal with that in my own way. And I do not expect my staff to act as irresponsibly as the inmates. I want those tools found by morning. You can both supervise the search. I trust you will not mind a little overtime.
That'll keep them busy. They'll be turning the joint inside out. That'll be the last place they look.
Yeah. Worth losing a couple of cups of coffee for. Pity about the workshop, though.
Oh, most of the money they make on them things goes back in the prison anyway. So it's no skin off our noses. What do you reckon we'll do next, Bea?
Wait and see what they've got planned for us. You know, Ken and I really wanted that project to work. It was also to play it their way, too. Get you believing in something and then they rip it away from you. And then they expect you to take it lying down.
Is this what you want? No work? Boredom? If you think vandalism will affect the running of the prison, then I assure you the only people to be affected will be yourselves.
Did you find what you were looking for, Mrs. Davidson?
Everything was recovered, yes.
Well, none of us are in the pound, so it can't have been any of us.
Who's the rotten muggle who would have done that, Mrs. Davidson?
I'm holding you all responsible.
Now, hang on a minute. You can't accuse us without proof.
Yeah, and if we're going to be punished, we should at least find out where the stuff was hidden.
It was found in one of the staff's lockers.
I knew it was them. We were set up.
As far as I am concerned, it was planted. All this equipment will eventually be repaired. But I have no intention of letting you be idle until then. You will have other, less pleasant duties. And as you can no longer be trusted, you will be under constant supervision. All you have succeeded in doing is making your life in here more uncomfortable.
Three and a half years. He only had 2 months to go when he broke out.
They've added on the 2 years he would have been on parole. And another year and 4 months for escaping. Chrissy, you've still got Elizabeth to think about.
Keep me hopes up, you mean? Just to give them the satisfaction of saying I can't have her? Oh, the bastards. I'll show them.
Smith, mop and bucket. Bryant, half a litre of cleanser and a scrubbing brush.
Oh, is that what they are?
Burns, mop and bucket. Wordsworth.
Did you get under mouse?
Yeah, it's all set.
Good.
I'll tell you what, it's not going to be easy making screws like those two sweat.
You want to bet? When we finish with them, they'll be too scared to come within cooey of us. I want to show them what real fear's like.
Where do you think you're going, Trap?
Oh, to the kitchen, Miss Bennett. I just picked these up from sick bay.
Well, you're taking the long way round, aren't you?
Oh.
Are you all right?
I could have done me back in.
Oh, well, you can always claim workers' comp.
Well, get back to work, all of you. Hurry up, Trap, pick it up.
Okay.
They're up to something.
Yeah, well, they can't do much if we go by the book.
Smith, take your things to the next corridor. Stokes and Cavelli, you go to the next wing.
Oh, but don't argue, move. From now on, if we see any more than 2 of you together at one time, we'll take it that you're conspiring to incite a riot. Now move!
Hurry up. Divide and conquer trick, eh?
Works both ways.
Hey, Bea. You reckon that's hard work?
What?
Standing around watching other people work?
Oh, that depends.
On what?
What you're watching them do. Now, it must be harder work watching us clean corridors than it is doing project work.
True, but it'd be boring.
Oh, no, if you haven't got much up top.
When you've finished with your Laurel and Hardy routine.
Hey, Jude. Yeah? You could do it in a minute.
When?
Once you've got her back turned. She can't keep an eye on you every second.
Yeah, but we gotta do it properly.
Will you stop worrying? You're not going to get caught.
Well, I have to find the place.
You find the place. I'll do the hanging.
If you two are trying to threaten me, I won't.
you? For your information, we are simply discussing hanging a picture for Doreen as a surprise.
That's right. Gee, you're getting awfully jumpy lately. Must be the strain of watching us work.
You know, some people just can't handle promotion. Does that to neurotic women. They start imagining all sorts of things.
Everything all right?
So far.
You should be with Smith and Bryant. They're trying the old scare tactics.
And you left them alone?
You know, one of these days they'll give us some decent equipment.
Yeah. Gosh, you turn your back for 2 seconds. Look what happens.
I'm going to see you put away where you won't need watching, Bryant.
Is that a threat, Vera?
It's a promise.
Hey, I wonder how many of us they can fit in the pound.
Well, any more than 2 would be taken as inciting a riot.
Well, this is just some of it. The same things happen to all the cleaning equipment.
Trapp was the only one who could have given them the nails. She's been put in with the ringleaders until you decide what punishment to give them.
Miss Bennett, if you and Mrs. Powell wish to take the rules so literally, without any thought for the repercussions, I can hardly keep punishing the women.
We had to break them up. It's obvious they're planning something.
There have been quite a few threats, Mrs. Davidson. Or are we supposed to overlook them?
I think it's referred to as screw baiting, Mrs. Powell. Breaking the women into pairs didn't stop the vandalism. In fact, I would say it was a direct result of your actions.
Oh, Mrs. Davidson...
Mrs. Powell, I warned you about snap decisions. You have just played right into their hands, and all you have done is given yourselves more work.
It's impossible to keep them under supervision as long as they're in pairs. We haven't got the staff to go around.
In future, I insist on everything being referred to me first.
Mrs. Davidson, it weakens an officer's authority to have to refer to you on every single detail.
That is final, Mr. Fletcher. I insist on the officers easing up on the women.
Look what I've got. Bleach. So what? I've got an idea. Look, if we get the shirts oh, yeah, and we could iron them dry by hand. Yeah. Go and get the irons. Okay. You know what?
What are you up to, Birdsworth?
Oh, nothing, just having a bit of a chat to me mates.
Well, you can do it from where you were. If you've got anything to say, I want to hear it.
Well, actually, we're talking about you, Mrs. Barry.
Yeah, that's right. We were just saying, you got kids, haven't you?
Yes, 2.
Oh, how old are they?
15 and 12.
Oh, well, that's good. You know, they can look after themselves.
Must be real hard on them knowing you've got such a dangerous job, eh?
Yeah, accidents happening here all the time. Remember Yates? Ooh, dreadful thing.
Yeah, and it was all her own fault. She got real scared and we don't know what of.
If I were you, I'd look after myself. You know, there's some terrible people wandering about here. We wouldn't want anything to happen to you.
Oh, Mrs. Barry will be all right. We'll take care of her. See nothing happens.
You don't scare me, Smith.
We're worried about you.
Yeah, come on, Mrs. Barry. We can't look after you properly if we're locked in here. Why don't you let us out?
Bea, you wouldn't do anything to Mrs. Barry, would you? I mean, things can get out of hand in here.
Things will only get out of hand if the screws don't let up. If you're going to treat us like animals, I do expect to get bitten.
I am not going to supervise these women by myself. If I can't have another officer with me, well, I'll resign.
We've all had threats like this before. They're just trying to get under our skins.
Well, it's working, and I don't like it. Oh, it's not just Smith's lot, but you can feel the same mood through the entire prison, and it's getting worse.
Look, if we do double up, we've got to continue to stop the prisoners congregating.
You'll have to see Mrs. Davidson about that. And after all, she's on their side.
She's only trying to stop things from getting worse.
How? By letting the women do what they like?
Look, if we double up, we're back to square one. We haven't got the manpower, which means more overtime for all of us. And it also cuts down the number of rounds that we can do.
Yeah, and it leaves them even more time left unsupervised.
Right.
The only answer is severe punishment. But try telling that to Mrs. Davidson.
Oh, how can we keep them in line if we have to keep referring everything to her the whole time?
Well, any suggestions? Keeping in mind that we're the ones that get the blame if something goes wrong.
We have to be given free rein in controlling the women. It's as simple as that. And we have to insist that Mrs. Davidson supports us.
Stormtroopers are out in force today.
Yeah, I wonder why. Something happened.
Hey, Mrs. Barry, why are you giving these out? Don't you trust us?
Just keep it moving, Burns.
Okay.
What happened to the shirts?
They got their hands on some bleach. The tie-dye brigade.
How childish.
Just shows you what we can do when your backs are turned, Vera.
By the door, ready to move out.
How long is it going to take you lot to learn? You're not kids, you know. You're supposed to be mature women.
Oh, thanks for noticing.
The only thing I've noticed, Brian, is you're headed for trouble.
Mr.
Big
Fletcher,
trouble.
there are 2 knives missing.
All right, where are they? I won't ask you again. All right, you'll move out into the corridor one at a time. Miss Bennett, you and Officer Powell, search them thoroughly.
You're first, Smith.
The rest of you up against the wall, hands where we can see them. The first person to move or talk will be straight into solitary. Now, come on, move it!
Some people have got no respect for old age at all.
Seems to me you're looking in the wrong direction, Fletch. Why don't you check your own ranks?
Mr. Fletcher?
All right, we can punish all of you, or just the ones responsible. It's up to you. The women have been locked in their cells, and we're doing a spot check now. We didn't have time to get your permission.
Under the circumstances, I wouldn't have expected you to, Mr. Fletcher. However, I think Mrs. Powell has something else on her mind.
Well, this is the second time the women have stolen dangerous items. Next time, we may not be so lucky. We want to be able to do spot checks whenever we feel it's necessary, without checking with you first.
Very well.
We also want written instructions from you, giving us the authority to carry out regulations to the letter.
Want or demand?
Well, we had a meeting. It was a majority vote.
It sounds very much like a no-confidence vote, Mrs. Powell.
No, Mrs. Davidson. But we don't feel you're supporting us as much as you could be. Now, if something happens, we don't want to be held responsible.
I have always taken full responsibility for anything that has happened at Wentworth. You don't need a written guarantee. And I have no intention of giving you the power to punish indiscriminately. I am still the governor, and I will still make the final decisions.
Even if it means placing us in danger?
Don't you ever suggest that to me again.
No, Mrs. Davidson. But if we don't break these women now, we can't answer for the consequences.
I don't expect you to. However, I do expect my staff to remain calm. And as far as breaking the women is concerned, I will not tolerate that sort of attitude from any officer. I must say, I'm beginning to wonder just who is breaking whom.
That can go.
Oh, Miss Bennet!
It's a wonder I missed it the first time. It could be broken and used as a cutting instrument. This is classified as a weapon.
Oh, I don't know why you don't take everything and get done with it.
Don't worry. There'll be spot checks whenever we see fit, night or day. You'll soon learn to toe the line.
I trust you can all hear me. You will never learn, will you? Threats, vandalism, your general behavior. I have given you more than enough chances. If it's boredom you want, then that is what you will get. You will spend the rest of your day in the cells. You will be released for a meal and then returned here. There will be no recreation and no contact with the other women. Repairs to all the equipment you have damaged will be paid for out of your earnings. Your personal belongings will be returned when you prove to me you can be trusted, and not before. Is that clear? It may interest you to know I had intended finding a replacement for Mr. Andrews as quickly as possible. However, if this is the sort of behavior you're going to present, then I have no alternative but to drop the matter.
Well, the screws will only get rid of him too, so what's the point?
Yes, stick it, Mrs. Davidson. What you give with one hand, you take away with the other.
Well, you can't promise nothing because you've got to do what the screws tell you to do.
And we don't trust you anymore anyway, so there.
Onward, prisoners, sisters, marching as to war. 'Cause the screws of windward treat us oh so poor.
She's lost control. So it's up to us to get it back. And it's up to you to talk some sense into her. You're the deputy governor.
Well, I don't see what else she can do at this stage.
None of this would have happened if we'd been able to handle things the way they should be.
Oh, it's too late for that now, Vera. We have to insist on more protection for ourselves. I mean, what is she waiting for? Another riot? Or until one of us gets hurt?
We need more officers for a start.
Well, Mrs. Davidson's been trying for months.
But we can get temporary officers from Pentridge, can't we? At least until things quieten down.
You mean male officers?
Yes, why not?
We could protect ourselves if we were issued with batons.
Oh, well, count me out. I couldn't use one of those things even if I had to. Give me a few hefty men around any time.
Yeah, it might do some good at that. Weight of numbers, at least.
Look, those women don't care what happens to them anymore, which means that they're not afraid of reprisals, and that makes us more vulnerable. The only way to keep them in line is tighter security and by force.
Well, I am not going to use a baton. That is just asking for trouble.
Yes, but Vera, they're less likely to try anything if we double up with male officers.
But for how long? They'll only wait until the men leave. Look, we've got to handle this situation ourselves, or we'll never be able to control them.
Okay. Shall we take a vote on it?
They'll only come in and mess it all up again. We might as well leave it and save time.
We're going to save them anything. And we're not going to let them break us either, Lizzie. So come on, up and at it.
Where are we heading, Bea?
Well, we'll put the wind up some of them. That's a start.
They're doing a good job of that to me.
I reckon we should lose about 3 screws by the end of the week.
What?
Yep. I reckon they'll toss their jobs in, either because they have to work too hard or because they're too scared.
Oh, yeah.
I want to break as many of those pigs as I can.
I can only request help from other prisons in an extreme situation. This is hardly an extreme situation.
Some of the officers are already talking about resigning, Mrs. Davidson. We can't afford to lose them.
We're only asking for more protection.
Well, granted, tensions are high, but bringing in a force of armed men with batons would only increase that tension. I agree an officer should not work alone, but surely the rosters could be
Mrs.
arranged.
Davidson, we're not asking for too much. Under normal circumstances, we wouldn't mind, but we're working under pressure. Overtime's going to add to this strain, and not all of us can take it.
Until something's worked out, we want the women kept in their cells. And that includes taking meals there.
I told the women they could eat in the dining room. I'm not going back on my word, Mr. Fletcher.
Your word doesn't mean anything to these women anymore, Mrs. Davidson.
Perhaps because I have been coerced into breaking it so often, Mrs. Powell.
We don't want to be forced into a strike. But unless you make a decision by tomorrow morning, giving us the extra protection we want, you leave us no choice.